Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Adams Brothers Podcast. We are here this evening with State Representative uh, Anika Omphroy. She is the current state representative in House District number 95. She was first elected in 2018 to the state house, and she's been in politics for about 4 years now. And she is now running for U.S. Congress, the 20th Congressional District. That is the seat formerly held by the late, great U.S. Congressman Alcee Hastings. And Miss Omphroy now wants to run for that seat. And she's been getting things done at the state level, and now she wants to go to the national level and get things done. So, Miss Omphroy, welcome to the Adams Brothers Podcast.
Thank you so very much, Wayne and Daryl, for giving me an opportunity to be on the Adams Brothers podcast. My name is Anika Omphroy. I currently represent House District 95, which sits right in Congressional District 20. I went to elementary school in this district, middle school in this district, raised in this district. I didn't go to high school in this district only because I went to Nova High School. So, Nova's in Davie. But other than that, this is the district that raised me. I've been living here for 30 plus years. Both my grandmothers live here. My nieces, my mom, my dad, he's a little bit of a renegade. He doesn't live here, but everybody else lives here. I tell people all the time that if I only get 21 votes, because my 21 relatives live in this district, at least I got 21. So I'm grateful to be here with you today. I represent House District 95, which is a portion of 7 cities. That's Lauderdale Lakes, Lauderhill, North Lauderdale, Tamarack, Margate, Sunrise, and Plantation. All of these cities sit in Congressional District 20. Congressional District 20 happens to be the most Democratic and the Blackest district in the entire state of Florida, which is very similar to my House district, which happens to be the most Democratic House district in the entire state of Florida and the Blackest House district in the entire state of Florida. I happen to be the representative who should have gotten the least done in Tallahassee because only 10% of my population is Republican. However, I've done the exact opposite and gotten the most done probably out of all my colleagues in the Broward area. I worked really, really hard to do one thing, to bring back resources to the people that I serve. Because it's a Black district, we know that infrastructure due to socioeconomic issues and racism make it very difficult for us to get resources. And what I decided to do was to be a diplomat in Tallahassee. When you are in the super minority, you have to learn how to work towards your goals in a very strategic manner. And so that's what I did. I was able to bring back home 2021, 2022, $30 million in infrastructure projects to our community. Most of these projects are dealing with your water infrastructure because I'm the ranking Democrat on agriculture and natural resources appropriations. Appropriations is the committee that looks at your money. And so what I did was request from the moment I got to the Florida House that we looked at our canals. I said, I hear you talking about the ocean and the beach renourishment. I hear you talking about the Everglades and the need for Everglades infrastructure dollars. I hear you talking about the swings and the aquifers. I got canals and I need you to look at my canals. And so every time I would get into a committee, I'm surprised they didn't dub me Mrs. Canal, because every time I went in there, I was like, so my canals. Anyways, long story short, with 2.5 years of lobbying in 2021, the Department of Environmental Protection's secretary came to my committee and said, Representative Omphroy, you'd be glad to know that we have included canal infrastructure into the Resilient Florida Plan, and we will be setting aside approximately $100 million to look at canal infrastructure. So that is my work. When you see the canal infrastructure taking place over the next year, know it was me. I taken the sentiments. I grew up in I was born in Brooklyn, New York. My grandparents lived 2 blocks away from Shirley Chisholm's house. Wow. And I actually walked past her home as a child quite frequently. The neighborhood that helped to raise me before I was transplanted in Broward County, is that neighborhood. And people are always talking, they take her words, and I get a little frustrated. She said that you had to create your own seat at the table. And what I've noticed is that as a Black elected official, as a Black politician, when I create my own seat at the table and I navigate similar to my white male Democratic colleagues, it is not looked upon favorably. It's actually looked upon disfavorably, because I'm not supposed to be able to play the same game, and I'm not supposed to be able to master it, but I've done just that.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
And one of her favorite sayings I used to use on this blog I used to write, and that it is unbought and unbossed.
100%. But the interesting thing is, people act as if she was so loved in her time. She wasn't. No. They fought her tooth and nail, and they didn't fall in love with her until she was on her way to meet her maker. That is what we love her now. But at the time, they thought that she should not be where she is. And they didn't understand why this little Black lady deserved to serve in the US Congress as a US representative. And similar to me, they don't want me here. I make them look bad because they can't go back and say, oh, we weren't able to bring back any money because they don't give us any chance. Well, how the heck did they give it to me?
Gotta know how to caucus.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, gotta.
Across the aisle.
Yes. And the other thing is, we as Black people have to stop allowing our elected officials to give us excuses as to why we don't get back resources. We have a tendency to fight for
Deerfield Beach.
Yeah, say that again.
They're good at that here in Deerfield Beach.
All across the nation, actually.
Oh no, all across the nation. I serve as probably not something that I've posted, but I serve on the National Caucus of Black State Legislators on the executive committee at large. So that's all your legislative members from across the country. 60% of the Congressional Black Caucus members came out of the state legislature. But what I've noticed is the thing that holds us back the most as Black people is not white people. 50% of it is us. 50% of it is that we set the bar of expectations for our elected officials so low because we received low from them. And I'm leaving the state house, but before I left, I told all my cities, I said, do not let your new elected officials come here and sit as pretty princes and pretty princesses and don't do your work. They need to have expectations. When they come before you, you need to tell them what you need. And then you need to let them know, we expect this and we expect you to work for it. We will help you work towards it. We'll show up. What I taught my cities was they had gone through a period where they had not gotten resources for a very long time. And I sat down with each of my cities who rely on me for funding. There's 4. There's the city of Tamarack, the city of North Lauderdale, the city of Lauderdale Lakes, and the city of Lauderhill. I represent 3 other cities, but city of Sunrise is very affluent. They received money this year from the state to the tune of about $1.9 million to also work on water infrastructure, which I helped with getting funds for, but they normally don't ask me for anything. And the city of Margate, I represent about 300 people in that city, and the city of Plantation is approximately 175. So they never really ask me for anything. But every year I ask them if they need any help. And then I call them again to make sure they don't need any help. But my city of North Lauderdale, and my city of Lauderhill, and my city of Lauderdale Lakes, and my city of Tamarack, I sat down with them and said, listen, this is what they're working on. They're working on water infrastructure. They're working on, they're very pro firefighter right now. They're very pro Alzheimer's right now, memory care. They're very pro anything that deals with re-educating or re-advancing of workforce, because right now, white males in this country are earning less than their grandparents did. And that is a problem for them. So there's now this need for advancement in programs to ensure that their kids are able to provide for themselves, so they're not living in their houses. Well, this is the point where we have to insert our community into those programs when they're starting them. And so I pay very keen attention to where it is my colleagues who are currently in the majority are. And then I gear my programs and the things that I want to accomplish towards that. Some people will say, well, we need to fight for roads. Well, they don't care about roads. So when I say I'm a diplomat, I figure out what it is they want to work on, and then I make sure we get every drop of it.
Okay, so you're going you're going to be running for U.S. Congress in the 20th Congressional District, and you're going to be up there in D.C.
Yes.
And the hot topic right now today is gun laws. That's one of the hot topics. And I wanted to ask you a question about sensible gun laws. We all saw what happened in Uvalde, Texas. We all saw what happened in Buffalo, New York. And we're seeing this happen. We all know what happened out in Las Vegas, Parkland, Florida, right here in Florida, with the assault rifles. Now, I'm a gun owner. My brother's a gun owner. We respect the Second Amendment. But right now, an 18-year-old can go out and buy an assault rifle. And an 18-year-old right now cannot even go and rent a car, but you can go out and buy an assault rifle. Would you support, if elected to Congress, would you support sensible gun laws?
Of course. So I currently don't own guns at this point in time. However, I had a concealed weapons permit and owned 2 guns before getting elected to office. For some odd, strange reason, I decided to get rid of my guns at the same time I did my oath, which is my brother calls it backwards, right? I have one sibling and he's like, you did the exact opposite of what you should have done. You need your gun now. So I'm in the process of going back and purchasing. I had a Colt and I had a Bersa. Now I have to go back and reacquire those because he thinks I've lost my mind. So I do believe, I do believe in sensible gun laws, but it's something that you just said that makes even more sense to me. Why is it that you can't rent a car? You can't rent a car. You can't buy liquor. And I believe we changed the laws on when you can buy cigarettes. If I'm not mistaken, I think that we're moved it to 21, or we've been fighting to move it to 21. I believe so. Right? But you can go and buy something that can kill someone. I think that multiple people, but when it comes to what sensible looks like, you would think the first thing we would do is to raise the limit. But a lot of the guns that are sold or acquired are not acquired in a legal way. It's someone's a young person has decided that they know where their father's rifle is or their father's assault rifle is, and now they have gone to get that. But my colleague, Representative Diane Hart, always says this. She's out of the Tampa area. She says, Anika, if we all registered to get our concealed weapons permit, these gun laws in the state of Florida and throughout this country would change. If all the Black people decide to go and get concealed weapons permits and then showed up on social media and just showed our concealed weapons permit online, I believe within a year, you would see new laws that would come out in reference to ensuring the safety of Americans.
And no one is trying. I mean, a lot of people would say, when you go to talking about sensible gun laws, a lot of people would say, oh, they're trying to take away our Second Amendment. Nobody's trying to take away your Second Amendment. I'm a sensible gun owner.
Yes.
I own firearms myself. I wouldn't want anybody to take away my Second Amendment. I believe in the Second Amendment. So nobody's trying to take away your Second Amendment. The only thing they're trying to say is sensible gun laws is to move the age up from 18 to 21. And me personally, I support that. I think it should be at 21. I don't think an 18-year-old just getting out of high school should be able to go buy an assault rifle. If you're in the military, that's another thing. But just out here as a citizen, a regular citizen walking around here, just walk into a gun shop and buy an assault rifle at 18 years old, I don't think that that's right.
I agree. How do you feel about assault rifles? Do you think we should ban them in the US, or do you think that we shouldn't? I'm just asking because I've had this conversation with my brother and my cousins, and they own some, but I'm asking you.
Well, me personally, again, I own one, and
Mhm.
if can I do without one? Yes, I can do without one, but I own one as a gun collector and owner. So I really don't have a feeling about it. I could live with it, or I can live without it.
Understood.
I don't want someone come knocking on my door and telling me, that they want me to give them my assault rifle. No, that's like, I don't want that. That would
I
be kind of trampling on my Second Amendment right.
it would be, but I wonder sometimes if we should not be holding the sellers and the manufacturers accountable for some of the destruction that takes place. Like if we put parameters not on the American public, the acquirers, but on the sellers to do their due diligence when they are doing these background checks. And even if it's a private seller who's selling to you, when you have to transfer registration of a vehicle within a certain period of time. We did pass a law so that you're not responsible if you transferred it in the system. If they didn't hand over the paperwork, my aunt actually passed this law where you're not held responsible or liable for what happens with the vehicle. But I believe that you should have to, within 15 days of selling that particular rifle or gun, that you should have to transfer the information of who owns it to some form of a database, so that people are aware of the fact that this gun has been sold and no longer belongs to you, and who it was sold to. I think that's important information that should take place. I mean, I don't necessarily think that it needs to have racial demographics or the address disclosed to the public, but it should say that Tyler Smith is now the owner of K9555678, and it was lawfully sold on this date. We have to do it for cars. We should have to also do it for I believe, for when we sell a gun or a rifle. Someone should know that this particular person owns it. And I also feel like there should have to be a background check done of some sort. Maybe the person who's selling it has to pay $15 or $20 extra dollars, or charge $15 or $20 extra dollars to the person who's purchasing it. But I feel like we should have a responsibility to know who we're selling something to. That very rifle may take the life of, assault rifle may very well take the life of someone you know and love. And I think we have a responsibility to protect the public. But I agree with you on the 21, 100%.
And I myself own an assault rifle, and I had it, and like my brother said, I can do without if push comes to shove, but I think that we still should have an opportunity, even if you were to put other mandates on, like licensing on it. But I think, I think we should still have that choice, but I can do without. I wouldn't have a problem if they ban it. Just come pay me for what I paid for my gun. Make sure you pay me.
And just to be clear, I'm not trying to take away anyone's assault rifle, but I just think there needs to be another level to it. I wouldn't want anyone coming to take away mine. And so I agree with that, but I just feel like there should be a level of responsibility for whether it's the manufacturers who are selling it to a particular company, or the people who are selling it from that company to a person, that there should be some level of responsibility to do a background check on these individuals before we actually give it to them. And I think we need to, at minimum, change the law so that assault rifles and guns cannot be sold to anyone who is under the age of 21.
Okay.
I think that's a great.
What are your highest priorities for Florida and the nation?
Oh boy. So my highest priorities fall into two groups, right? Actually, not two groups. I think that we need to actually create a micro business administration. The United States Micro Business Administration would assist with companies that are 10 and under employees. Because right now, the SBA recognizes a small business up to 500 employees. That is crazy. There's no way that small business owners, which are the fastest growing group and amongst Black people, and also the backbone of our country, can compete with a company that has 500 employees. We need to be able to have access to low interest loans and grants towards growing. The more Americans have access to resources to create, the more we'll be able to build this country. At this point in time, we are in a deficit because we don't have access to capital and we don't have the ability to raise funds in the same manner as our other large companies or as our counterparts in big industry. You know, if micro businesses receive just 1% of the seed funding, 1% of the seed funding that comes out into the market, we would see a complete change in how America looks. You know, one of the things that I did work on, and I haven't gotten credit for, Broward County has incubator program that it created or helped to fund with Nova Southeastern University. And one of the things I told them, I said, you know, you have this think tank that you've created, right? This research institute. But have you worked with the law school to ensure that the patents and trademarks for these companies, so we can protect the things that they create? I have to say that Sandy McDonald from Broward County's Economic Development kindly took my ideas, got them moving in the right direction, and told me he didn't give me any credit for it. But we still love him because at least it got done. But we have to start to give our micro industries an opportunity to actually be able to grow. And being under the Small Business Administration is not helping any of us. I have heard so many times over the past 4 years how getting in touch with the SBA or getting assistance from the SBA is like pulling teeth. I actually had a micro business owner that is my landlord who said to me that she was having an issue with paying her loan and they would not work with her until she stopped paying. When she stopped paying, now they wanted to negotiate her rate. Now they wanted to assist her. And I think that is, that needs to be changed. The other thing that I want to work on is we need to actually talk about the fact that we are in a recession. I have no idea why our beloved president would go on TV and tell people that we're not in a recession. In 2018, when I got to the Florida House of Representatives, I sat down, we, as a Legislative Black Caucus under Chair Anton, we had economists come in and talk to us about what we should be preparing our community for. Let me just tell you, a Legislative Black Caucus chair is so important to the advancement of our state, but I'm gonna go back to what I was saying now. So he had an economist come and talk to us, and the economist told us that in 2022, we would be entering into a recession. It's just a historical cycle of how our country runs, right? Because of the pandemic, it sped it up. So most of us who work or run our own businesses noticed that about the first quarter in 2021, something didn't feel quite right. And now in 2022, we see the full impact of it. We are currently in a recession, and my cousin always says that you don't lie to me about what's taking place. Like, if it's not rain that's falling on me, you're telling me foolishness. And I would like for us to realize that this has not a reflection on our current administration. It was coming before our current president and vice president were put into position, before President Biden, before VP Harris. It is something that naturally happens. I also want to say this. Our economy works better under a Democratic president. It just does. Historical data shows that we thrive under Democratic presidencies. So I just need us to be honest so that we can course correct and fix it. There would not have been this big fight to fix inflation or to give relief to the American people if there wasn't a recession taking place. You can sit here and not name it, but history will reveal that that's where we're at right now. So I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. So housing, we need to tell the American. We did a whole thing and said there was a pandemic and we're in crisis, and we went to crisis mode, and we were able to shift resources from all over the place to help course correct the crisis of the pandemic. What we need to do is say that there's a housing crisis in this country, because we need to course correct that. We currently, for the past 28 years, we have not done right on the federal or the state level by the people, the American people. So the American people across our country, we see housing rates and attainable housing is next to impossible. And we're talking about middle-class people, 2 incomes, they can't figure it out. Now if we look at our single parents, single male parents, single female parent, they are not able to figure it out, even though they're making, decent money by what standards used to be. The reality is we have 3 and 4 generations living in one house, and not because they want to. So at some point in time, we're going to have to do that. And if we do declare a housing crisis, then we can get HUD to do rapid housing and the USDA to do rapid housing. The district happens to be rural and urban. And so the USDA does housing in rural areas to sustain our farming communities. And so we need 100,000 new attainable housing units built by 2024. We need 440,000 multifamily attainable housing units created before 2024 in order to ease the burden of what's taking place in Congressional District 20. Our president has said that we need 1.5 million in housing stock. Well, let me just tell you, gentlemen, we need 1.5 million in housing stock right here in Florida. So somewhere along the line, somebody needs to go back and recalculate what's taking place. I am very fond of Secretary Fudge. I believe that she was a brilliant lawmaker, and now she's in charge of HUD. But at the end of the day, the stats that came out of the president's May report is absolutely not up to par to just say Florida. There needs to be a change. There needs to be a realistic look at the housing issues here. We are 1.5 million houses short in Florida.
And they're not affordable right now either, because if
nothing about it is affordable.
You won't be able to move back here.
No, you can't. So we've invited everybody into our state. Governor DeSantis has said, come to Florida. But where are people living? And then when President Trump passed his law, the SALT tax, well, everybody fled from California and they fled from New York, because the SALT tax said you could no longer use your federal tax, your state tax, and offset it with your federal. So all the people of means made it to our state because they knew they were a safe haven here. They didn't need to worry about state income taxes. We don't have one. Have you noticed that you can't get into your doctor's appointments? Oh, yeah. It's taken 2 months to get to the doctor's appointment. Oh, I can't, to get my hairdresser's looking at me. I love you, but we're gonna have to set up a schedule. I'm like, hello, I need your help now. So it's little things. Dentist appointments are stretched out, but that's because we have new Floridians here and we are grateful for them being here. But where are they living?
Yeah. And like you said, they have to generations, more than one generation of families are living in one home, because look at how much rent is right now. I mean, to rent a home right now is just anywhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a month. I mean, that's just for the average home,
And we mean average. There's no marble tiles. There's no chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. Very much so, a normal average household is overly burdened by forget 50%. We're looking at 70% of your income going towards your housing, which is also the reason I believe that we need to increase the amount of the HUD rental voucher assistance program, and also to the amount of it, and also increase the amount of them in the general public. We need to increase that number, and that would take legislative action. That would take our Congress changing that for HUD. HUD can't do it on its own. I actually had a conversation with one of the assistant deputy secretaries. And the response was, we can't change that. It takes an act of Congress to increase the amount of rental vouchers and to increase the amount of rental vouchers given out to the public, and also to increase the dollar amount of the of rental vouchers. But we've got some other things we need to do. Let's talk about the fact that our housing stock is aging. So it's 50 years or older is majority of the housing stock in Broward County and also in Palm Beach. And we have not funded our home rehabilitation programs to the extent that they need to be funded. We need to actually set aside money so homeowners can rehab their homes, and then they don't have to move out. You know, being able to fix your walls and your roof with a low interest loan is a major move that would help so many Floridians. On top of that, some of us are inheriting our grandparents' homes. Some of us are inheriting our parents' homes. And if we had that rehab money, we would be able to continue to build on the legacy that we have been left. But one more thing, we need to give the owners of multi-unit developments the ability to access low interest loans so that we can stop having our people living in facilities with sewage coming through the pipes and it's rat infested. I've seen so many horror stories when I started this journey. And that means access to low interest loans, but also we need to give resources to developers, small developers, so they can create communities within the available spaces that we have. So I actually have a whole system, a holistic view on what we need to do with housing. But one of the things that I talk about that usually goes over my opponents' heads is that Florida has, the federal government has a program through HUD. And it goes into certain areas and it creates special districts. And these special districts, they come in, they build housing, they start a training program to train the community to be able to go after the tech jobs and the industrial jobs that they're bringing in. Well, Texas has 4 of these special districts. New York has 3. Florida has 1. Now, based on our population size, where we have a larger population than New York, which is about 17, 18 million, we got 22 million people in the state, and we only have 1 of these special districts. So I'm calling to have one of those special districts created in Congressional District 20. We have the land for it in the rural part of our district. And what you would see is, instead of people from the outside coming in to take these jobs, the people within this special district, which is what I want to do with Congressional District 20, would be able to be trained. Housing would be there for them to then be able to go after their American dream. The district we currently have is in Southwest Florida, and I believe that Congressional District 20 is primed to have it. We are in the southeastern part of the state, and no other part of the state has it besides 1 area. We realistically should have 3 or 4.
I know you're busy right now, and I know
I'm
you're
sorry.
out there on the polls and everything, and it's voting time right now. People are already
It
voting
is.
early, and actually voting starts.
It started already.
Already.
Right, early voting has already started.
Yes, I voted
Yes.
today.
Right, and
Oh, I hope I got your vote.
and on the 23rd, we got there's voting that the regular voting starts on the 23rd.
Yes.
I have one more question for you, and I think my brother has another question as well.
I got a few more.
And we've all seen what happened to George Floyd. We all have seen what happened to Breonna Taylor.
Yes.
And there's so many more. I could go on and on and on about police misconduct.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it all the time on the news. No matter what channel you turn on, you see police officers killing unarmed Black people, shooting us down in the streets. And these same officers, they'll get acquitted and they may get fired from their job, and then they'll go to a couple of cities over the next state or whatever, and they get another job. So my question would be, if elected to Congress, would you support a nationwide police misconduct database that will keep track of police misconduct? So these bad officers Now there are a lot of good officers out there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to bash police officers. My son is a police officer, and I have police officers in my immediate family, high-ranking police officers. So I'm not anti-police by no means. But the bad cops, there should be a way to track these bad cops. And if they get fired from one job and their buddy works in another city upstate, and they can just go there and get another job and continue that same behavior, bad behavior. Again, would
So
you support a nationwide police misconduct database?
I mean, whenever a medical professional or misconduct takes place, they're not allowed to go and get a license in another state. When you have an attorney who is disbarred in Florida, they can't run over to Texas and go get, pass a bar over there. And I could be mistaken, but I believe there's some form of a system of checks and balances. I believe that we need those checks and balances so that if a law enforcement officer, for me, the first one that hit home for me was Corey Jones, who was sitting on the side of a highway. Right. And that was my first move into speaking about police brutality. Like you, I have a brother who is in law enforcement. My best friend is a police officer. So people near, my uncle's a retired correctional officer, and my cousin's a firefighter. So people near and dear to me protect and serve. But even they acknowledge the fact that not everyone who has taken an oath to protect and serve protects and serves all equally. And so I do believe that we need a database that follows these bad actors within, they're a very minute group. We saw in the city of Sunrise where a officer actually attacked his colleague and, pepper sprayed a gentleman. She stepped in to intercede, and he held her by her throat and threw her up against the vehicle.
Well, pepper spray him.
Threatened to pepper spray him. I feel as if she hadn't interceded, that gentleman's life would be a lot different today. But we see this. We also watched as her colleagues did not step in.
Stood by and did nothing.
Their
body camera was off.
I didn't see not one of them come to her aid. So, I think that the people who have taken an oath to protect and serve would appreciate not having to work with people who do not value the lives of all humans in the same manner. So yes, I would agree with that. I can tell you that in the Florida House of Representatives, I worked in 2021 to handle our first police reform legislation that's come out in a very long time. And it was called the Law Enforcement and Correctional Officers Data Reporting and Excessive Use of Force Law. And I am the person who, it encompassed more than that, but the portion I contributed, Chair Representative Anton had termed out. He asked for me to work on making sure that we started tracking excessive use of force that led to extreme bodily harm or death. And Representative Hart from out of Tampa, my colleague that works really heavily in the justice reform space, asked for me to include correctional officers to the portion of the bill that I wrote. And so, yes, I 100% believe we need to have that done. It's something that's far overdue. I'm not quite sure why it hasn't been done yet, but it needs to be done. And like you, my respect and admiration for those who go into law enforcement is great. And I don't want to see anyone think that we don't respect the work that they do, because without them, when I dial 911, I would like somebody to show up. There are countries where you dial 911 or 119 and no one shows up.
And we all like good police officers.
Mm-hmm. Oh, please! The second something happens, I'm dialing. So I want to let them know that we do respect them, but we also know that they have colleagues that they think shouldn't be in law enforcement either.
Absolutely.
Okay, Senator Lindsey Graham has already said publicly on a lot of the shows, that news media shows, that if the Republicans gain control of the House and Senate, that there will be major overhaul to the Social Security and Medicare. Are you, if elected, prepared to take up real reform to Social Security and Medicare? And what specific reforms, if any, are you willing to support?
Oh boy. First of all, Senator Lindsey, you said Senator Lindsey Graham. I'm like, ooh, my eyebrows went up. But I think that one, I worked in the Florida legislature where I am definitely in the minority party. There are out of the 120 members, 43 of the members are Democrats and the rest are Republican. So being in an environment where the tables are not stacked in my favor is not unknown to me. It's what I've lived in for the past 4 years. I do believe there are reforms that need to take place for Social Security. I think our current system has outlived its purposefulness. I'm not quite sure what he means by what he would like to reform. But I do believe that we need to make changes. Huh?
I think he wants to make it private. And I think more or less my question to you would be, what would you propose to ensure that it remains solvent for years to come?
So one of the things that I think is, it's based on how many people are working, right? So how many people are actually in the workforce and the incomes they're making to put into the system. Well, you have a lot of people who are not paying into Social Security because they've gone off to become small business owners or micro business owners. So they're not paying into Social Security. They don't see the need to pay into Social Security because right now they don't feel as if they have the assistance or the resources to pull in. So we may need to look at how we can make it so that micro business owners, small business owners can pay into Social Security so that it's there for them also when they retire, and also restructure. What I realized with our federal government is I believe it's very top heavy, and I'm not. People have called me a conservative. I think I'm a centrist. I'm somewhere in the middle, and I think that the conservatives are always afraid of change. The progressives, some of them are regressives, are always pushing for ideas that may very well change the scope of things. But the centrists are the ones that actually have to figure out how to get it done. Because these two groups, one's afraid, one thinks they can destroy everything. And somewhere in the middle, we have to pull the ideas from both groups to make things work, right? We don't get any love. No one writes any books about us. But I believe that I need to see what his plan is. Privatizing Social Security does not sit well with me, because I haven't seen any of these privatized systems work correctly. What I have seen is that American people still be ignored. I've not seen it work. Do I think it needs to be revamped? Yes. Do I think it needs to be a situation or scenario where micro businesses, small business owners can pay into a system so that they have Social Security that they will be able to draw down when they retire? A lot of us go into business thinking that knowing that we're going to make tons of money. And that's not always the reality for us based on how the cards are stacked. So Social Security is important to small business owners. And so those are my thoughts. I don't have it all mapped out, but believe me, when I get there, we'll see. We're hoping that I'm a Democrat, so I'm hoping that Senator Lindsey Graham is not in the majority when I get there. However, if he is, I look forward to looking at his plan and using good old common sense to figure out whether or not it works for me. And if it doesn't work for me and the people that I serve, people are like, oh, you have to map things out on the U.S. congressional level. Yes, but the people who sent me there live in Broward County and Palm Beach. And I have to remember those people when I'm sitting there lobbying on behalf of the American people. So yes, I'll figure it out.
And I got two more questions and then
I'm ready.
Do you believe in reparations reparations has been in the news. I've seen it trending every day almost on social media, Twitter. And I see it's two groups out there, ADOS and FBA. Do you believe in reparations for foundational Black Americans or Native Americans?
100%. It is interesting that I think that Native Americans or some of the tribes received some form of that, right? We see that with the gaming compact that was formed for some of the Native American tribes, right? We have not seen that for the enslaved Black people that were brought to the Americas and built the Americas, you know? And the truth of the fact of the matter is repatriation should definitely take place. This is the thing though. What Wayne wants and what Daryl wants and what Anika wants may look different. And I think that when we map it out, it should be mapped out differently, because Daryl may decide that he wants his money to go towards acquiring new lands, right? Wayne may decide he wants his money because he wants it in cash, because he wants to go put it into the stock market. He wants Bitcoin, right? And Anika may decide she wants it because she wants to go to school without having any debt, right? So we all have different ways of looking at it. We didn't have a choice as enslaved people brought here. I think there should be choice included to what that looks like, because I don't think it's cookie cutter. And you sending me, you know, is it like the Native Americans where they receive a check every month?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind getting a check every month. But is that what I want? Maybe I don't want a check every month. Maybe I want a lump sum. Maybe I want a lump sum and all my family members want a lump sum because we want to go buy a compound. And we don't want it coming every month. We want it one shot. Yeah. We buy our compound and then we don't have to see you guys ever again. You know,
a lotto, you know, you get a choice of taking a lump sum or taking it over 30 years, you know.
We did not have a choice when we were brought to the Americas. My forefathers got dropped off in the Caribbean, but we didn't have a choice in our passage. So for me, I think we should have a choice in what it looks like. Sorry about that. We should have a choice in what it looks like. And that's my only thing. It's a definite yes for me. It's long overdue. I want interest on the money that they were supposed to give us when we got out, you know, got out of enslavement. I want extra interest for the Jim Crow era. And I think we need some interest for the post-traumatic stress disorder that we're going through currently. And that's just me. I need some compound interest for the compound stress. And I feel like I'm talking to people that I've known for a while. Excuse me, but I do get animated sometimes.
Yeah.
And this is my final question. While in the Florida legislature, when have you shown independence from your party on an issue of major proportion?
Listen, my party has been very concerned about me very early out. Because for me, I tell people all the time that if they wanted us all to be the same, then what we would have done is we would have gotten elected to office, and then we would have handed over our card to the leader that we elect out of the group, and then the rest of us will sit at home and let them vote one vote. I am not cookie cutter. I am not in line with everything anyone says to me. My community is strong. It is hardworking. It has major economic stressors. And when I sit down in the Florida House, if I see something that don't make sense to me and the Democratic Party is full gung-ho on it, I call them to the side and I say, listen, let me explain something to you. I believe in school choice. I have 3,000 students in my district who go to school choice schools. My parents believe that they should have control over where their child goes. We are the direct descendants of enslaved people. We didn't have control over how our family was structured. We are still fighting for a public school system that actually works correctly for us. We have teachers who love our kids. We have teachers who pour into our kids. But let's just be real. The high school in my home city looks the same as it did in 1996 as it does now in 2022. So when I hear we have to stand up for public schools, yes, we do. But let's be real. The public school to prison pipeline is real. Let's be real about the fact that no one likes to talk about it, but who is calling the cops on our little kids who they deem a little hyper? This is where it happens. And so I believe that parents should have choice in regards to where they send their kids. And they've been beating me up ever since. And I don't care. I'm the only sitting elected official in the Florida legislature who the AFL-CIO, the SEIU, and all the other unions have not given an opportunity to interview. Have you ever heard of a sitting elected official not being allowed to interview? Well, I'm her. And so I have to say this. The one regret I have of falling in line with my party was redistricting. I served on full redistricting in the Florida House of Representatives, and I told them, clear as day, that the way in which the Florida Senate maps and the Florida House maps and the congressional maps were laid out were actually not unfair to Black people. My colleagues will tell you that they mulled over this, but I can tell you, not many of them actually looked at the maps. Not many of them looked at the demographic breakdown. Not many of them even took the time to understand it. Our leadership did not provide us with additional resources as Democrats or the Legislative Black Caucus with enough information as Black people to be able to map out how our state would be laid out for congressional, Senate, and House. I told them that voting against the map was exactly what Governor DeSantis wanted, and they decided that they were going to stick it to the governor. I talked to the policy chief, who's a brilliant woman, and the first Black woman leader that's going into leading the Florida House. At the time, she was our policy chief. And I told her, I said, these maps are sound. I've read these maps. I've looked at the demographic overlay. Orange County, where Congresswoman Demings currently serves as the Congresswoman. Let me tell you something interesting about that county. They're going to tell you that we're disenfranchising Black people. But how the law is set up, it is language-based protected group and it is race-based protected group, right? And currently, the language part is where our Hispanic brothers and sisters come in. And then the race part is where we come in as Black people, right? Because we're the largest minority group. That congressional district has a large influx of Hispanic people from Puerto Rico because of the hurricanes. So that district, while it is still a majority district, language minority, race minority district, it is no longer can be a protected Black district because it is so evenly balanced. So they couldn't make it a language protected district and they couldn't make it a Black protected district. But what they did in that map was protected anyways. When we voted against the map, we weakened our legislative powers and left our colleagues who are Republicans. We should have stood together as a legislature. People have a tendency to think that the governor is higher than us. He's not. The executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch all sit even. When we decided to play party politics as legislators, we weakened our ability to secure ourselves. And we voted against it, and I voted in line with my colleagues. And then we shut down the Florida House, and I had to tell them we need to call back the old maps. I don't know if you saw when we shut it down, but I was a part of shutting it down. I didn't intend to shut it down that day, but once they did, I was like, can you bring back the old maps? Because my colleagues shut it down without a plan. How do you shut down a whole legislative body without a plan? That is my problem sometimes with us. We shut it down. We don't know what we're asking for. We're singing spiritual songs. We got one person over here telling us to sing E-I-E-I-O, but nobody had a plan. What ended up taking place was we voted to sock it to the governor, and he socked it back to us. And we lost 2 Black protected areas in this process. And I blame it on us not standing as a legislature. Sometimes We got to drop party and rock through. If you look back through those tapes, you know, they're going to tell you the Republicans did it. If you look back through those tapes, I was the only Democrat that voted to get it out of committee in the Florida House. If you look back at the tapes, the chair of that committee, Chair Leak, does not speak one word in affirmation towards the governor's proposed legislative maps. Not one word. Because they didn't agree with those maps. But because we didn't stand together, they knew they couldn't battle it out. So I'm the supposed renegade Democrat, and I have no problem with being that because I do what's best for my community.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
State Representative Anika Omphroy, this is your chance to tell the people in the 20th Congressional District, Dade and Broward County. This is your op in Palm Beach and Broward.
Yes.
Tell the people why they should vote for you as the next U.S. Congresswoman in District 20, in the 20th Congressional District. You have the floor.
So I have to say this. I am the only law creator in this race. I've created 4 laws. I've created Uterine Fibroids Research and Education, which became law on July 1st, 2022. It passed unanimously through the House and the Senate and was signed into law early. No votes in any committees in either chamber. I also am a part of the Early Childhood Education and Development that became law on July 1st, 2021. And also the rest booking photographs to end the online posts becoming a part of everyday existence. I had a friend call me the other day and say, hey, can you look me up to see if I'm there? And I said, well, I think the law I passed on July 1st, 2021 took care of your mugshot that shouldn't have been there lurking for life, right? But the truth of the fact of the matter is I'm the only person that served in the billions on an appropriations committee. I serve on full appropriations in the Florida House of Representatives. I know what billions look like, and I'll be able to master trillions if given the opportunity. I have run on a platform to be a state representative about bringing your resources back home. We know that socioeconomic racism is real, and we need really strong voices to stay focused on not the social issues, but the economic issues that impact our day-to-day lives. And I will advocate to bring back your resources. I will ensure that we continue to grow and advance. I'm not, I don't make promises. I get things done. So if you vote for me and you trust me with your vote, I promise that you will get more than promises from me. 30 million came into Congressional District 20 because of my work, and I will continue to bring back resources to our community. Thank you so very much, Wayne and Daryl, for the opportunity to be on the Adams Brothers podcast today. It has been an honor and a pleasure to meet you virtually. I look forward to meeting you one day in person, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, Anika Omphroy. She's running for the U.S. Congress, the 20th Congressional District, and that is also the district that was held by the late, great Alcee Hastings. Ms. Omphroy, we wish you the very best.
Good luck.
Good luck to you out there on the campaign trail, and good luck to you at the polls next week. And when you win, we look forward to seeing you back on the Adams Brothers podcast.
That's right.
I look forward to it. And I will still be the state representative until November the 8th. If you have any state things that you want to talk to me about, let me know. I appreciate it, and I look forward to being your congresswoman really soon. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
we appreciate it. And thank you for stopping by the Adams Brothers podcast, and come back and talk to us real soon.
I look forward to it. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Thank you.